I remember a moment not so long ago when I found myself standing at the edge of something that felt exciting and terrifying all at once. It was like standing under a sky full of stars, knowing there's so much abundance out there, but feeling frozen, unable to reach for even one. Have you ever felt that way? Like you want so badly to receive more money, more success, more opportunity, but something inside keeps pulling you back, making you want to run in the opposite direction? That's exactly how Juliana used to feel. She'd say she wanted prosperity. She'd talk about her dreams, about the life she visualized. But when a real opportunity started knocking, when chances to earn more, grow bigger, or step into a more visible role appeared, she'd panic. She'd get cold feet, overwhelmed by a wave of fear that made her sabotage herself, often without even realizing it. It's strange, isn't it? We can sit and declare our desire for more, write affirmations, meditate, and really believe we want to change. Yet, underneath that desire, there's a silent, often unspoken fear that can completely block us from actually stepping into what we say we want. I've seen it happen 100 times, not just in my own life, but in others too. The moment something begins to shift, the moment we start to come closer to that breakthrough, we get hit with this emotional resistance. Our mind whispers, "Are you really ready for this? Or what if you mess everything up?" And suddenly, instead of embracing the opportunity, we retreat, self-sabotage, or simply shut down. Juliana's story is familiar because I've been there myself. You see, I once believed that I was unstoppable, that nothing could hold me back from my dreams. But then I faced the truth. There's a part of me that's afraid of what receiving really means. I realized that wanting prosperity isn't enough if I don't prepare myself internally for it. Because, let's be honest, more responsibility, more visibility, more money, these things stir up everything inside us that we haven't fully healed or integrated. They bring up doubts, old stories of insecurity, feelings of unworthiness. And if we're not conscious of those triggers, well, they're like hidden landmines, ready to blow up our progress before it even begins. That's what I want to talk about today. Not just the surface level of manifesting money, but the deeper, often unspoken block that keeps so many of us stuck. This fear of truly receiving. It's a quiet, yet powerful thing. It whispers that we're not enough or warns us that we're not ready. It's the reason so many good opportunities slip through our fingers just when they start to come into view. I used to wonder why, despite all my efforts and positive thinking, I'd still find myself sabotaging the very results I so deeply desired. It was frustrating, confusing, almost like hitting a wall every time I tried to go higher. And that's exactly what I want to explore with you today, the truth behind that wall. Because once I understood that this fear isn't a flaw or a sign that I'm failing, but rather a natural part of growth, everything changed. I started seeing opportunities differently. I stopped running from the larger version of myself and instead learned how to meet her. That shift made it possible for me to not only attract more money, but to truly feel deserving of it, without panic or doubt creeping in. So, if you've ever stood on the brink of something beautiful and felt your heart pounding with excitement, only to feel that nervous tremor of fear inside, know that you're not alone. I've been there, and I want to tell you. This resistance isn't a sign to turn away. It's a sign that you're about to step into a new level of yourself. And once you understand what's really happening beneath the surface, everything shifts. The fear loses its power. Opportunities become invitations rather than threats. And suddenly, the path to prosperity isn't so intimidating anymore. It becomes a journey of growth, of trust, and of deep internal readiness. And that's what I hope to guide you through today. There's a fundamental truth I've come to realize through my own journey and countless conversations I've had with those striving for greater abundance. Many of us cling to the belief that desire alone creates change. We meditate on riches, visualize abundance, affirm we're worthy, yet we remain stuck. Why is that? Because underneath those efforts lies a quiet, persistent worry that deep down, we're simply not equipped emotionally to handle genuine wealth. It's like planting a seed in soil that looks fertile, but secretly harbors weeds that choke out growth. If we don't uproot that internal resistance, all our positive intentions can be thwarted by the very doubts we refuse to face. Let's explore that idea further. When I look back at the times I felt myself swelling with hope, I realized that those feelings often collided with an undercurrent of familiar fears. These fears weren't loud or obvious. They were subtle, like tiny cracks in a foundation, yet enough to undermine everything I tried to build. That's when I understood that craving success, in its purest form, requires a readiness that goes beyond intentions or visualizations. It demands a mental and emotional environment that can nurture change rather than collapse under pressure. If I were to compare it to preparing a garden, I'd say that, before planting, the soil must be cleared of negative energy, loosened of doubts, and enriched with a sense of worthiness. Otherwise, even the most beautiful seeds struggle to establish roots. Now, think about how this applies when real opportunities cross your path. The universe might present a chance, perhaps a new job, a lucrative project, or an invitation that could alter your financial trajectory. Bright, promising, exactly what you've asked for. But if within you there's a residue of self-doubt or an old story of scarcity, that chance can instantly feel overwhelming. It's like staring at a vast ocean and feeling paralyzed at the shoreline. Not because the ocean is too big, but because your internal emotional landscape isn't prepared for the dive. The challenge isn't the external event, it's your inner state. Without a sense of calm and belief that you're deserving right now, without feeling a sense of internal stability, you might unconsciously push opportunities away, or worse, sabotage them. This leads me to a crucial point. Genuine expansion requires cultivation. It's similar to how a muscle grows through deliberate effort, not just intention. You need to train your emotional resilience as rigorously as you train your physical body. When I started paying more attention to how I felt about receiving, I noticed patterns that had quietly persisted for years. I'd fear losing control, being judged, or not being able to sustain my success. These fears built invisible walls designed to protect, but ultimately, they kept me small. Once I committed to rewiring that protective instinct, learning to feel safe at higher levels of abundance, I saw opportunities become easier to accept and more natural to embrace. Another insight I gained is that emotional readiness isn't a one-time achievement. It's a continuous process, much like tending to a delicate plant that can wilt if neglected. It involves regularly checking in on your beliefs, noticing what triggers feelings of unworthiness, and actively replacing those thoughts. For instance, if negative narratives about money begin to surface, "I don't deserve this," or "it's never enough," consciously replacing them with empowering affirmations is essential. Those small acts act like mental nutrients that strengthen your internal landscape. Over time, this energetic shift begins to feel less like a battle and more like an alignment, a natural synchronization with your desires. Finally, I want to emphasize that aligning desire with emotional preparedness also means developing patience and self-compassion. Sometimes, we expect transformation to happen overnight, but growth operates on its own timeline. Pushing too hard or forcing results can create a backlash of resistance. Instead, I urge you to view each step, every doubt faced, every fear released, as progress. Celebrate these small victories, since they act as proof that your internal environment is evolving. As you do this, you create a fertile space where the energy of receptivity can flourish optimally, allowing opportunities to flow in effortlessly. When you genuinely cultivate this internal harmony, external circumstances begin mirroring that sense of safety, confidence, and readiness, making success feel like a natural extension of who you already are. Building an emotional foundation for prosperity often feels like trying to anchor a ship during a storm. There's so much chaos and uncertainty swirling around us, making it hard to find solid ground. Yet, the key lies in cultivating a nuanced understanding of how our subconscious programming either acts as a barrier or a bridge to abundance. Frequently, we're unaware of the subtle scripts running in the background, those repetitive messages we've absorbed over the years that shape our beliefs about what is possible or impossible for us. These messages, often rooted in childhood or past experiences, serve as invisible ceilings that restrict what and how much we believe we can receive. Therefore, intentionally shifting these mental narratives becomes instrumental. By consciously replacing limiting stories with empowering declarations, ones that affirm worthiness and readiness, we begin to dismantle the mental barriers that have kept us bound. It's akin to rewriting the code that runs quietly in the background, allowing new pathways of possibility to flourish. Furthermore, it's essential to recognize that aligning with financial expansion is not solely about mental affirmation, but also about emotional resonance. When I started noticing how I responded internally to success, whether I felt excitement or apprehension, I realized that my energetic state either attracted or repelled abundance. I once observed that I subconsciously linked wealth with stress or loss, which triggered feelings of insecurity whenever a promising prospect arose. This internal association created a disconnect. It was as if my subconscious was sending mixed signals to the universe, saying, "I want this, but I don't trust it." The remedy was to develop an energetic environment that truly welcomed prosperity. That meant creating mental spaces where I could genuinely rejoice in success without fear of losing control or being left vulnerable. It's a process of rewiring emotional responses, so instead of shrinking back in the face of growth, my energy expanded in harmony with my intentions. Another layer to consider is how emotional maturity acts as a catalyst for receiving. In many cases, our fears of change are rooted in a belief that growth demands that we assume greater responsibility or face harsher realities. But in reality, advancing into a more abundant state often requires us to develop different skills, those of trust, patience, and patience with ourselves. I've learned that patience is not passive. It's an active stance of faith that what's meant for us will arrive exactly when the time is right. When I shifted from rushing to make things happen to allowing myself to receive without forcing, I noticed a remarkable change. The flow of prosperity became smoother, and I was able to release the need to control every outcome. Essentially, I started viewing abundance as a cultivated skill, something I could nurture through consistent effort and awareness, rather than an external prize to chase. Think about serendipity as a dance rather than a race. When I truly surrendered to the idea that the universe is always orchestrating my good, I opened myself up more fully to receive abundance effortlessly. We often think that success hinges solely on effort, but there's an elegant dance between intention and receptivity. I began to recognize signs and synchronicities as messages that I was aligned. Those moments often came in subtle forms: a conversation, a chance encounter, a new idea that I initially dismissed or overlooked. Developing a sharp awareness for these signals became vital. I learned that being alert to the tiny, almost imperceptible shifts in energy allows us to step into opportunities gracefully. It's less about waiting for big, dramatic breakthroughs and more about tuning into the gentle whispers of guidance, trusting that each one moves us closer to our desired reality. In my experience, patience and openness are twin pillars of true expansion. When I started practicing patience, I felt less frustrated by delays or slow progress. Instead of resisting what was happening, I embraced every moment as an essential part of the journey. I also made a point to celebrate small wins, because each one proved to my subconscious that abundance is a natural state available to me. Over time, this shifted my entire energetic landscape. No longer did I see growth as something distant or hard to attain, but as an organic flow that increases as I align with it. As I became more receptive to these subtle shifts, I noticed how my environment seemed to shift in response. New opportunities appeared with less effort, and I found myself more capable of managing increased responsibility without falling back into anxiety. Ultimately, the process boils down to fostering a mindset that genuinely believes in your capacity to hold more, while simultaneously clearing the mental and emotional clutter that blocks ease. That's when prosperity begins to feel like a natural extension of who you are, an experience you effortlessly co-create with the universe. As you deepen this understanding, the act of receiving turns into a serene acceptance rather than a stressful demand. It's here that the magic happens, not by forcing change, but by aligning inner harmony with external flow. When you truly master this balance, the process of expansion becomes a joyous journey, carried along by your evolving capacity to welcome abundance in all its forms. Another layer often overlooked is how the stories we tell ourselves about worthiness can act as silent barriers to receiving abundance. We might focus on affirming that we deserve prosperity, but if deep inside, a narrative persists, like a faint echo from the past, that we're somehow not enough or not meant for luxury, those thoughts carve invisible walls around us. It's as if we carry invisible burdens, unseen yet profoundly felt, which suggests that if prosperity appears suddenly, it might overwhelm or destabilize us. This is why consciously examining and reshaping the scripts running in the background of our minds is essential. When I realized that many of my doubts stemmed from beliefs I adopted long ago, like, I must work tirelessly to earn success, or I don't have what it takes, I understood that transformation begins with dismantling these myths, replacing them with affirmations that acknowledge internal readiness, even if I didn't fully feel it at first, created new pathways for growth. Consider how the power of visualization alone can sometimes be limited if there's an imbalance between desire and emotional readiness. Visualizing a life of abundance might awaken motivation temporarily, but without aligning your feelings with that vision, it risks feeling like a distant illusion rather than a tangible reality. I've noticed that cultivating feelings of gratitude as if the prosperity is already present creates a magnetic pull that's much more potent. Imagine sitting at your table, feeling the warmth of achievement, the freedom of financial independence, sensing that those elements aren't just dreams. They are memories you're actively creating. This emotional association cultivates trust within, reinforcing that you are equipped to handle what's coming. The mental shift becomes almost instinctive. Your mind begins to recognize opportunities that previously might have seemed insignificant or unrelated because the vibrational undulation now matches what you desire. Building on this, imagine framing your life as an ongoing exchange of energy. If you view receiving as a one-way street, like you're constantly pushing out effort to get results, you might inadvertently block the natural flow of abundance. Instead, shift perspective to see yourself as part of a dynamic dialogue with life. Every act of generosity, every moment of appreciation, feeds this exchange. When I started practicing genuine appreciation, not just for my accomplishments, but for opportunities, small or large, I noticed subtle shifts. Opportunities felt less threatening and more like natural invitations to participate in this ongoing flow. It became clear that alignment isn't about forcing outcomes, but about cultivating an openness to receive in all forms. Recognition that abundance is a continuous flow, not a finite resource, transformed how I approached growth. It's as if I tuned into the frequency of plenty rather than scarcity. Beyond attitudes and mental perspectives, practical actions reinforce this shift. For example, I could schedule regular times to reflect on achievements, no matter how minor, and acknowledge how they have added to my growth. This habit trains the mind to focus on progress rather than perceived lack. By actively recognizing moments of success, I foster a sense of momentum, encouraging the subconscious to prioritize opportunities aligned with that energy. At the same time, I become more attuned to my body's signals, pinpointing sensations of excitement, lightness, or openness that indicate I'm in harmony with abundance. Learning to observe these subtle cues helps me discern when I am truly aligned versus when I am resisting or contracting. That awareness creates a feedback loop, sharpening my intuition during times of decision-making or when new opportunities arise, making it easier to respond instinctively with confidence. Another crucial aspect involves how you interpret setbacks. Instead of viewing obstacles as affirmations of unworthiness or failures that confirm your limitations, I've learned to see them as necessary adjustments, a part of the natural process of growth. Sometimes, it's about shifting focus from the results I want to the clarity of my intent. If a particular goal doesn't materialize immediately, it might be that I need to refine my approach, increase my skills, or deepen my understanding of what I truly desire. I remind myself that expansion isn't just a straight line. It resembles a spiral, often requiring a few circles before reaching a new altitude. When I recalibrate my perspective and stay grounded in my purpose, I become more resilient to disappointments, recognizing them as stepping stones rather than dead ends. This inner resilience feeds my confidence and reinforces my readiness to receive the next wave of opportunities. Ultimately, success in this realm is deeply rooted in cultivating a mindset of ongoing discovery, an openness to learning from every experience. My internal dialogue shifts from, "Why isn't it happening yet?" to "What am I being guided to understand right now?" This shift in perception opens space for insights and breakthroughs I might otherwise miss. It encourages me to remain flexible, to adapt my approach without losing sight of my core intention. Learning to view every fluctuation as an essential part of the process strengthens my trust that what I desire is aligning itself with my evolving capacity to receive. In this way, growth becomes less about forcing change and more about becoming receptive to the natural rhythms of life's abundance, trusting that in due time, everything necessary will be in place for me to flourish effortlessly. Reflecting on this journey so far, I realize that all these concepts interweave into a profound dance, each important in its own right, yet collectively forming a mosaic of inner transformation. It's as if I've been navigating a vast, intricate landscape where the terrains of belief, emotion, and perception are constantly shifting beneath my steps. Every insight gained feels like a new vantage point, revealing a broader vista that beckons me to venture deeper. The way I perceive challenges, opportunities, and setbacks has shifted from thinking of them as separate obstacles to recognizing them as integral parts of the same dynamic flow. This awareness invites a deeper trust, a knowing that there's never a real obstacle, only an invitation to grow richer in understanding and resilience. What strikes me most is how these threads don't operate in isolation, but instead influence and amplify each other. Our internal container isn't static. It's a living, breathing space that expands just as our awareness broadens. The mental adjustments I've made act like a gentle engine, gradually increasing my capacity to hold more light, more clarity, and more abundance. And with each renewed belief, I notice a subtle shift in how I approach life's offerings. It's as if I've been tuning into a frequency that was always present but previously muffled by doubt, fear, or limited perspective. Now that I've begun to understand how vital it is to cultivate that internal harmony, I see that every step taken with genuine intent reverberates through every aspect of my journey. There's also been an unspoken invitation woven through this entire process, an understanding that embracing abundance is about relinquishing control to a greater intelligence that guides us. It's an act of surrender that's not rooted in passivity, but in trusting that the unfolding will happen in perfect timing, conditioned by my inner readiness. During moments when I've faced uncertainty or experienced delayed results, I've learned to recognize the subtle signals that point toward growth, rather than signs of failure. These signals remind me that the process isn't linear, and trying to force a specific outcome often blinds me to the opportunities blooming quietly around me. Instead, the art lies in cultivating patience, remaining receptive to the nuances of flow, and allowing space for breakthroughs to emerge at their own rhythm. This perspective reframes setbacks from being setbacks into opportunities for further refinement, an essential part of navigating the landscape of expansion. It's like tending a garden. Sometimes, despite the best efforts, certain seeds take longer to sprout, revealing that growth isn't always instantaneous, but deeply rooted in the necessary conditions we set internally. The more I align my inner state with what I wish to attract, the more I notice how effortlessly life begins to mirror that harmony back to me. What once seemed like distant possibilities now appear as invitations calling me into a new chapter of conscious co-creation. The once intimidating notion of receiving beyond my comfort zone transforms into a natural extension of who I am becoming. All of this points toward an undeniable truth, that cultivating a sense of internal wholeness, clarity, and patience allows the outer world to reflect that harmony back with greater clarity. It's the subtle art of becoming an energetic match, an active process that involves more than just visualizing or affirming. It demands a commitment to becoming more aligned in how I hold myself emotionally and mentally. As I do this, I see that each moment offers a chance to reaffirm that I am deserving and ready, not through effort alone, but through a deeper acceptance of my inherent worth. Every breath, every intention, every act of gratitude becomes an integral part of expanding that capacity, paving a pathway that invites abundance to flow freely and effortlessly. So, what remains is a continuous opening, an invitation to stay present and attentive to the internal shifts that generate external change. This direction calls for devotion, not just to the goals I desire, but to the ongoing practice of nurturing the inner space where those goals can truly take root. With each internal resistance gently dissolving, New possibilities come into view, shimmering with potential. I sense that the most profound transformations come from this quiet, persistent alignment, an alignment rooted in trust, patience, and a readiness that's cultivated daily, layer by layer. That's where the true magic resides, waiting patiently in the background, ready to reveal itself when I've made enough space inside to truly receive. As I reflect on everything I've shared so far, I realize that the journey towards true abundance is less about chasing external results and more about cultivating the inner landscape that makes them possible. It's about building a sanctuary within, one where worthiness, trust, and openness reside in harmony. When I truly grasped this, I saw a profound shift occur. The way opportunities appeared, how I responded to them, and the layers of resistance I once thought were insurmountable began to dissolve naturally. That inner harmony becomes the fertile ground where prosperity can root deeply, flourish, and shape my reality in ways I hadn't even imagined. There's a subtle but powerful implication hiding within this truth. It confronts the fundamental idea that success depends solely on external effort or circumstance. Instead, I learned that our capacity to receive is directly intertwined with how well we understand and nurture our emotional and mental alignment. We are not just passive recipients waiting for the right chance. We're active participants shaping the conditions for abundance through our awareness and internal frequency. This realization invites me to see every moment, even those lined with challenge, as opportunities to deepen my connection with my own sense of worth and openness. Those uncomfortable feelings, fear, doubt, resistance, are not enemies, but messengers guiding me toward growth. When I honor their presence, listen to their messages, I can release what no longer serves and step into a more expansive version of myself. From this vantage point, I see that the act of growth is continuous. Each insight, each shift in understanding becomes a stepping stone, a gentle nudge that invites me to loosen old patterns of scarcity thinking. It's not about forcing change, but nurturing a mindset rooted in trust and receptivity. This perspective transforms how I approach life's unfolding. Instead of rushing toward outcomes, I align with the rhythm of creation, learning to flow with the natural surge of energy that brings my desires into form. Recognizing the power of my inner state allows me to become more aware of signals that indicate when I am truly ready to receive what I seek. These signals might come as a feeling of calm, a sense of gratitude, or a quiet confidence that what I desire is already mine. When I notice these subtle shifts, I know I am in timing with my intentions. The real magic occurs when internal openness becomes a habit. Making space for abundance isn't a one-time decision but a daily devotion, an ongoing commitment to nurture my beliefs and emotions in alignment with my highest good. It's in those small moments of mindfulness that trust deepens, and I find myself more receptive. My surroundings soften, and opportunities appear seamlessly, no longer feeling like distant dreams, but tangible, reachable parts of my experience. I become attuned to the gentle whispers guiding me toward actions that resonate with my true purpose, actions that feel inspired rather than forceful. Through this increased awareness, I safeguard the fragile yet resilient bridge between desire and manifestation. In this continuous process of personal evolution, I've come to understand that adversity often acts as a catalyst for transformation. When resistance or discomfort arise, I no longer see them as obstacles, but as reflections of my growth potential. They expose areas where I might be holding on to old beliefs or self-imposed limitations. When I meet those feelings with curiosity instead of aversion, I create space for new insights and expand my emotional capacity. This expansion not only allows me to hold more abundance, but also deepens my appreciation for the journey itself. The path to fulfillment becomes less about rushing toward a finish line and more about appreciating the ongoing dance of becoming, an intricate interplay of letting go, trusting, and opening to receive. In the end, the true revelation is that abundance resides within each of us, waiting patiently for our willingness to cultivate a receptive mindset. It's about seeing ourselves as active creators, shaping reality with every thought, belief, and emotional choice. As I embrace this truth, I realize that the biggest shift isn't in external circumstances, but in the awareness of how deserving and capable I truly am. With this understanding, I no longer see abundance as something outside of me waiting to be caught, but as a natural state of being I can access at any moment. And perhaps, the most empowering realization of all is that by tending to the garden of my internal world, nurturing belief, releasing doubts, embracing worthiness, I set in motion a limitless flow of possibilities that transform my experience into one of effortless abundance and joy.